It's such a wonderful goal.
It's impossible to explain to kids now what cup final day was like.
Yeah, that was an interesting one.
He turned in a man-of-the-match performance.
They were a hard man's team, they were.
And they had small tellies back then, so it wasn't a full-size pitch.
Yeah, I grew up watching the cup final. I got up at 9 o'clock in the morning, from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock, sitting in front of the TV, watching all the build-up.
It was one of my strongest childhood memories because my older brother is a Manchester United fan. And Arsenal slaughtered them for 80 minutes. Do you remember? 2-0 up, comfortable. United scored 2 quick goals.
It's going to be a replay in this one, and then Arsenal break away and score the winning goal. You know, Alan Sunderland.
My brother was jumping round because United had scored. And as he was jumping round, because I was younger, I went, Arsenal just scored, because that's what you do with your brother now. To which we started fighting.
The 1953 FA Cup final boasted some of the most illustrious names in English football history. Nat Lofthouse was playing for Bolton Wanderers. The legendary Stan Mortensen scored a hat-trick that day for Blackpool.
So, Eddie, you're behind the goal. It's 1953, it's Blackpool-Bolton. How do the people tell the kits apart? Because they're both sort of black and white.
The day itself at Wembley belonged to one man, Stanley Matthews. 23 years on from when he first laced boots, his entire country was behind him as they willed him to win a first ever FA Cup at the age of 38.
The first thing I can remember was the searing heat. I was sat on the bench, you know, my head was taking a pounding from the sun. For 80 minutes, Arsenal were far superior. They had battered us in every department, you know, but whilst you've got somebody like Michael Owen on the pitch, you've always got a chance.
Arsenal at the time were the best team in the country, and they seemed to be cruising towards the FA Cup.
They were almost on the coach with the cup celebrating, and then unfortunately just the smugness was wiped away from every North London gooner. I enjoyed that.
Michael Owen, at the peak of his form, scored 2 goals in quick succession.
The second goal had such a lot to do. Great pass by Berger, you know, as Michael runs away from, I think it's Tony Adams and Lee Dixon. You know, and he's got David Seaman still to beat from a near impossible angle. So I've got to say, for me, it was the Michael Owen final.
1923, first FA Cup final at Wembley, West Ham versus Bolton. 300,000 people turn up. Do you know what that'd do today?
What?
Probably wipe out the debt of most of the clubs in the Premier League.
Due to the crowd control measures used by police, this game will forever be known as the White Horse Final. The crazy gang against the culture club is how one BBC commentator described this final.
And the legend goes, right, that in the tunnel for the game, Vinnie Jones, who people think is a plastic hardman, but he's not. Because I met him, and he's a scary geezer, right? Starts going mad in the tunnel, and the Liverpool team don't want to know.
You know, it was verbal, you know, and I think there was some nice expletives in that tunnel that day. You know, that's the stories you hear, you know, when the two teams were coming out of that tunnel.
Think of that Wimbledon side, right? Horrible. Dennis Wise.
Yep.
Sanchez was a lump.
Yep.
Fashanu.
Yep.
The old Guy Mabbitt thing. Vinnie Jones. They were horrible.
I just remember when they scored how silent it was. Just a load of angry scouts.
And to see Sanchez knock that in against them to me was
brilliant.
Fantastic.
I was hoping Wimbledon would win, being the underdog, because I can't see him ever repeating this feat if they ever get there again. And I was with Dave Besant the other day, actually, funnily enough, and he's the only, you know, saved that penalty.
John Aldridge became the first ever player to miss a penalty in the FA Cup final. It was a great save by Besant.
And Aldridge, he was the first one who did that cheating thing about running up for a penalty and go, whoop, and then tucking it in and see that saved. Oh, fantastic, great day.
The legendary Geoff Hurst is among the goal scorers as West Ham beat Preston 3-2 in the 1964 FA Cup final.
That I was brought up on stories of Geoff Hurst, and you know that final was where he was laying the grounds to be amazing at Wembley. It was 1964, don't forget. So Geoff Hurst has pretty much won that final for him, West Ham. 2 years later, he went to it again with his country. What a legend.
Set against the tragic backdrop of the Hillsborough tragedy, which took place only 5 weeks beforehand. Liverpool 3, Everton 2 is perhaps the most fitting tribute that Liverpool could offer the 96 fans who perished that day.
It was after Hillsborough, because I was at Forest and we played Liverpool in the semi-final, obviously, with Everton going through the same day as Hillsborough. It was obvious that it was going to be a Merseyside derby, and the rearranged game that we played with Liverpool was sort of going through the motions in the semi-final. It was a day where we didn't really feel like we could win it, It was right that Liverpool played Everton that year.
Well, I know what the rivalry is up there in Merseyside. You know, it is. You know, it's ferocious. I wouldn't say it's vicious, but the thing for me, it was soon after Hillsborough. The wonderful thing for me, and it still exists today. It was the togetherness and seeing all the fans intermingle. That's my recollection of the game. I know Stuart McCall scored a fantastic double that Liverpool went on to win, but my memories of that day was seeing all the fans from Merseyside, you know, blue and red, you know, sitting together. Everybody in and around the Coventry area, all the Coventry fans, that's their greatest day. But for me, you know, as somebody who went and worked for Coventry City, my memory of the day is just a spectacular diving header for Keith Houchin.
Coventry, you know, done what they've only done once, I think, this in their history.
And I remember that final, the goals going in, everyone thinking again the game was over, and Coventry coming back and doing what they did.
And the winning goal was an own goal scored by Gary Mabbott, whose name is still chanted in Coventry to this day. If you're a Coventry fan, there's not much else to sing about.
This was the best FA Cup final in recent times.
West Ham were brilliant on the day. They performed way above themselves.
Captain fantastic Steven Gerrard stepped up, scored 2 goals in the second half. The equaliser to make it 3-3 pretty much with the last kick of the game when he could barely walk because of cramp, slammed into the corner from 30 yards.
I was there with my agent Stuart Marshall, who actually looks after Steven Gerrard, and at the moment, you know, Steven Gerrard scores that wonder goal. Struan and I, we've got a little bit of admitting to do here, that we had actually left the ground. We'd taken away from our seats and we'd stepping down the steps and we heard the Liverpool fans were quickly ran back in, and then Liverpool going to win. So, you know, we'd left the building, so to speak.
Gerrard, as he's done so many times in his Liverpool career, came to the rescue and scored that fantastic goal, taking it to extra time into penalties, and Liverpool becoming the victors.
Tottenham, Manchester City in 1981 was a phenomenal final.
Manchester City's Tommy Hutchison scored for both teams, giving us the first ever FA Cup final replay at Wembley in 1981.
I was there for a replay, yeah. And I was, in my little head, I was thinking 2 things. One, I support Arsenal. Wait a minute. So does Dad. Why am I here watching this? And the other one was, isn't Wembley a hole? Yeah.
Tottenham was my big team, so to speak, because as a kid you had to have a big team, so I took a lot of interest in that.
Manchester City had a great kit, that sky blue kit, do you remember? It almost shimmered, didn't it, in the night games.
Yeah.
Beautiful looking kit, beautiful colour. And they scored, Duncan McKenzie's got a cracker equaliser, gorgeous goal.
Yeah, being a Tottenham fan, I remember it very well. Ricky Villa picking the ball up, and it's one of my favourite FA Cup moments.
Just a cracking end-to-end final, and what a goal.
See, that was in the good old days when you had replays at FA Cup finals. And that's when the proper fans got in, because it was loaded with all the fans. It was great. And then Ricky Villa had that weave to get that goal in.
His mazy goal was absolutely fantastic.
Took it, weave, back four.
People getting out of his way. I always remember Garth Crooks stepping out of his way because he knew what he was about to do.
I mean, people look at Garth Crooks now, they just think he's just a bloke with a big fat head. But he was actually quite good at the time.
Joe Corrigan was in goal for Man City, and I actually ended up working with Joe Corrigan between 2001 and 2003. And I can honestly tell you there wasn't a day that went past where I didn't remind him about that goal. Really hated me.
One of the best goals ever scored in an FA Cup final. Genius.